How you doing, Zachary?
I'm doing great, Vance. How are you?
I'm doing really well. And I'm excited to finally have this conversation with you. So you have run a coaching business for how many years now?
8.5.
8.5 years. And you do career coaching, work with mostly young professionals. You've also been in that time, though, a dungeon master,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
How many years have you done DMing, dungeon mastering?
I think about two, if you're generous. Yeah.
Okay, started a couple years ago. How many campaigns have you run?
So I've done, I think, three one shots at this point, and then one campaign that stretched over 35 sessions, which we took about a year or so to do.
Okay, this is fun, isn't it?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So today, for the first time, we are bringing these worlds together a little bit, the two Zacharys. All right, so this is what I'm interested to see, because I have always known you as buttoned up professional, very clean, very professional, very kind. And then I also got to meet Dungeon Master Zachary, where you might have some tricks up your sleeves,
That's fair.
right? And I might end up doing some absurd stuff and like stuffing salami up the nose of a dragon to help defeat it as you kill it with the cloud of daggers.
Which you actually did do, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, very proud of that moment. So, you know, let's pull these two together. I really want to talk about mains,
Okay.
right? So what is a main to you?
A main, as I understand it, is just essentially the main character that you're playing as. So, your player character that you love to bring to every campaign.
Is it always the same character, or do you have a main as like just the class or an archetype?
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I would say archetype for me would be like a wizard.
Okay,
That's
so that's your main.
pretty much my main. Yeah, main class, absolutely.
How did you learn that you were a wizard?
Well, I've always loved wizardry in the sense that I was a huge Star Wars fan growing up, and that's essentially space wizards. And then I
Fair.
finally got into Harry Potter and enjoyed that, wizarding world. And even in terms of the anime that I watch, it's all about like, powerful mages, Freerin, for example. Excited that they have season 2 coming out.
So popular media kind of gave you these examples,
Yeah.
and they stuck with you. I'm sure you must have tried out some other classes along the way. Like, how long have you played D&D? DMs for 2 years, but you played longer?
I played probably for 3 or so.
Yeah.
So I pretty much played a campaign and then jumped in as DM for the next one.
Oh, like right
So,
away.
yeah, yeah. And part of it was like, Wizard is arguably the most complicated class to play because it has something like 214 spells. Not that I've been counting, but yeah. And I was like, how can I make this a bigger challenge for myself? And then that was, well, run everything as a DM. So,
Okay. Did you try any other classes, or was it just like wizard? You were locked in.
I pretty much knew that I wanted to do wizard, and even in Baldur's Gate 3, I was a wizard. So I had 2 wizards in my party.
Yeah.
I did think about like adding a third or fourth wizard, by respecing, but yeah, I just kind of really love the wizard class because of the magical abilities and
You know what you like.
yeah.
All right, so I've DM'd a little bit. I don't have like full campaign experiences. I mostly will do one shots, and I had the pleasure of experiencing one shot by you. It was hilarious. We're gonna do another one this weekend. Really looking forward to that. But as a player, I will have a hard time picking a main. Right, I am a founder, an entrepreneur. I've got ADHD. A lot of us with ADHD become founders. A lot of people with founders have ADHD because we seek novelty and stimulation. We need like new stuff all the time. So I had a different experience finding my main. I haven't.
You haven't, yeah.
I don't know. It's a really hard question to answer.
Okay.
What is my main in D&D? And I will I'm the guy who will like pour into every class and compare and try to see like what resonates most with me, right? What am I trying to do with this playthrough, this campaign? And I haven't gotten my main yet. There's like,
You tried out Monk, right?
I've tried
one
Monk.
shot?
Yeah. I like Monk. It appeals to me, but honestly, all 12 of them, I could find something that seriously resonates. Like all 12 classes.
Yeah.
And that is definitely reflective in my career. So I'm interested to like learn a little bit about me, learn a little bit about you, see if we can share something that's helpful for people.
Right.
Because I see that like the way that I can't pick a main in D&D, it's like, well, of course I'm an industry agnostic entrepreneur who loves dabbling in all the industries, life sciences, healthcare, whatever, like you name it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's funny. I saw a creator on YouTube recently talk about how if you had 12 classes and you just basically put one level in all of them, you can
Yeah.
actually do some pretty cool stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. That's,
Okay.
But yeah,
Have you ever
I
multi-classed?
have multi-class, but not in tabletop RPG. I've done it in
Okay.
I've said I've run one campaign as dungeon master. I've also used extensive generative AI like campaign work where I'm essentially co-DMing slash player. And
Save some
so
time, right?
yeah, and you can't always get players around the table and you want to play. And for me, I found I wasn't always able to sit down in front of a PS5 to play Baldur's Gate 3. So I was
Fair
like,
enough.
my phone's here. I'm putting my son down to sleep. He's already asleep, but I can't lay him down yet.
Yeah.
I'll jump in and play it. So that's been a good way for me to do it. And I've tried multi-classing into sorcerer because of the storyline that I was telling with that, and that
Yeah.
was a lot of fun to sort of have like sorcerer with wizard attached to it. And then in terms of other characters, I've played as other characters or classes because you have party companions in Baldur's Gate 3, and
You control them,
yeah,
right? If
exactly.
you're playing by yourself.
Yeah.
So you've experienced the other classes
Yeah,
too.
for many
Yeah.
of them, not all of them.
Or did you have any kind of second favorites then that arose where you really liked playing as?
I think if I was to run another campaign and I couldn't choose wizard, I would probably be somewhere between sorcerer, which is still similar. I like the raw elemental magic
Yeah.
kind of piece of that. And then I actually recently in a new AI tool tried out a warlock class because they didn't have wizard or sorcerer. I guess the developers were like, this is too complicated to try and build in 200
Yeah.
spells here. So yeah, so warlock was interesting because you still get some elemental magic, and specifically that eldritch blast, which is very strong
Bread
force
and
damage.
butter.
Like
Yeah.
that, I'd probably consider doing a warlock class largely if I had to not pick the other two.
So you already mentioned storytelling. I mean, there's a few interesting things here. One, you're using AI to play D&D with you when you can't get the gang together.
Yep.
Which, like, yeah, it's hard to schedule. It's hard to pull 5 or 6 people together at the same time every week or what have you for a campaign. That makes a ton of sense. So I'm interested to hear more on how you use that tool. You mentioned your son. You're recently became a father.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. He's almost 2, so yeah, he's a sweetheart and
Yeah.
a lot of fun. And I'd actually love to actually DM a table with him at it, which
Yeah.
is something I've seen other dads do and on social media. So I think he would probably really enjoy that. But he's not quite at that age yet to where he can follow the story.
Yeah. But the imagination.
Yeah.
That you capture. Oh, that's wonderful. Has becoming a father changed your perspective on DMing or on your relationship with the game at all?
Yeah, so it has in the sense that, like, as you probably know from DMing yourself, it takes a lot of time to build the world, to prep a session, to run a campaign. And when you become a parent, your time compresses down to almost nothing. So I've had to like get really clever in the ways in which I would prepare and design that. So like even the one shot I'm running this Saturday, I've just used generative AI to kind of have a conversation to help me tease out my ideas, to figure out the kind of layers of the dungeon and what else I want to do with that. And I'll do that in my downtime or as I find minutes to do it. And yeah, a lot of it just comes down to like, where can you find the time to squeeze it in to do the planning? And ideally, you're giving yourself months to do it because you can't spend a day just building a session.
And I imagine that this is mirrored by your career and your business ownership too.
Yeah. Oh, very,
right?
very much. Like, well, just in terms of like the time scarcity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right now, being an entrepreneur and managing a team of 5, 6, 7 people, depending on how you count it, as well as having, a baby, like time scarcity is pretty much the thing I'm feeling the most in this season. So how do you throw DMing on top of that?
Yeah.
It is honestly challenging.
But life without DMing, this is an important hobby.
Yeah,
There's a lot of fun to be had.
It's a lot of fun. It's
Yeah.
probably my primary, outlet right now, and the thing that I think Star Wars missed a lot of opportunities to like make the universe cool and relevant, and that's why I kind of shifted from like primarily being a Star Wars fan to now being a dungeon master and
no longer best friend. Now D&D is best friend.
Yeah, it's, in terms of like share of my time,
Yeah.
I'm not even really thinking about Star Wars or watching very much, but I did briefly look up like a tabletop RPG, basically a reskin D&D 5e for Star Wars.
They did a collab.
Someone has
Like
like
fan-made.
reskinned it, fan based, yeah.
Cool.
And so it's out there, but
Yeah.
even that, I look at those classes and I'm like, why would anyone want to choose like a gunslinger class? I would just want a Jedi.
Yeah. That's a cool thing with these fandoms is anyone can contribute,
Yeah.
their own thing. So I'm thinking, the time scarcity piece is kind of interesting to me because it is such a hard filter. You end up making some serious trade-offs, right? Like you have to learn a little bit about yourself, what's really important, what stays in your day, and what is like, what, just that's not worth it. Doesn't make the cut. Have you learned like you're keeping in DMing because it's important enough. You're keeping in entrepreneurship, right? Which is it's risky. You face ambiguity every day, but there's this tantalizing reward at the end of what you could build and the impact you could have. What has filtered out for you from the hobby and from your career?
Ooh. Like what am I not doing now?
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've downshifted in terms of the number of new one-on-one clients that I'll take. A lot of that is just, very time expensive in the sense that, I used to be able to run 6 or 8 even one-on-one sessions in a day if I was feeling particularly crazy that day. And now, no, I'll put most of those folks into a group coaching platform or program
Yeah.
that I've got. And so I'm cutting down on the one-on-one coaching. From a hobby standpoint, I mean, I can't think of the last time I like picked up the controller to play on a console. Like I think it's been months at this point, and I would try and squeeze it in, find time, but now I'm just really not having that space and time to do any sort of real gaming. And then
Well, you are gaming,
yeah,
but
in a
it's
sense.
with human beings around a table,
Right.
right?
It's a richer experience. So it's just one of those things
Like your
that
standard went up.
yeah, I guess my standard did go up. It's that the frequency went down.
Yeah.
So, and when running a campaign, I was pretty much running it weekly for a while, which is how you get to 35 sessions over 15 months. We missed a few and then it started to space out longer and it just became like clear that I was losing out on capacity to do almost anything. So yeah, those are probably some of the major things that I've reduced or cut down on personally. And then,
Definitely like quality over quantity approach.
yeah, and I know because you've been a friend and mentor for some time now, so you've seen some of the like ways in which we've been like, hey Zachary, you should focus on your health more. So like that's another piece that I'm trying to figure out. How do I work that in?
Yeah.
And right now it pretty much comes down to like the weather's better. Let's go out on a family walk and go to the playground kind of thing.
Yeah, you guys have scheduled camping trips. I mean, you exposed
yeah.
your kid to the outdoors early on, I think
Like
very
6
intentionally.
months, 6 weeks old actually was his first camping trip.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Has he gotten to swim yet?
Yeah, we did some swimming. In fact, there's this great video we have from our recent vacation where it's like a water slide, and he like climbs in himself, sits down, slides down. He's just so happy. Yeah, so
That's awesome.
he's old enough now to where he can kind of like do a lot of that on his own, and he's giving the like by self.
I was like thrown in the pool at I think it was 11 weeks is what my mom said.
Wow. Okay.
And there's a place called Beaver Dam, and it was a formative experience because I'm one with the water, man. I was on the swim team through middle and part of high school too, and
Nice.
did water polo. So yeah, it's a valuable skill. Wizarding entrepreneurship. Do you see yourselves kind of reflected back and forth in those things?
Yeah, so I mean, my character Balasar Delmarev, he's a dragonborn wizard, which having played
Naturally.
Skyrim, I was like,
Yeah.
dragonborn, that's cool. Plus, he's like a dragon man. So, one of his character traits, his flaw, as you have to build a flaw into the character, right, is that he always chooses the more complicated path when there's a simpler one.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much like a description of my life. I tend to overcomplicate things often. And so, I think that does come out in the like, could have done a career that was really simple and worked for someone else. And here I've chosen the most like advanced way to try and design my career. So, yeah.
Maybe you know the answer to this question. When did you have that insight about yourself? Like a little self-awareness of like, I kind of over-design things.
Well, so I actually find I enjoy the over-engineering of stuff to like ridiculous degrees, but as far as how long I've known that, I mean, my wife is very generous in pointing out where I can improve. And that's just good because as a coach and as someone who's focused on self-development, I appreciate that, and I welcome that. So she's probably pointed that out over the last 6 years several times, but I have a feeling I kind of knew that about myself, even if I didn't have the words for it, probably before that.
Our wives can give us the words for things. Right?
Yeah.
They see us.
Yeah.
So thank you, wives.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So do you, like, what have you learned about yourself by playing a wizard in a fantasy world?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so I one of the things that, and this probably appeals to anime fans as well, like just the idea of like growing in your power levels. So
Hmm.
that's something that I particularly liked about, yeah, here you're just shooting off firebolts, but then you've got a fireball, and it's like, how can I upcast the fireball? And like, when do I get meteor swarm, right?
Mm.
So something about like having just the power to do good and have kind of like a lawful good character go around and just kind of make the world better for other people. In this case, in a fantasy context, right? Like you can do that through like actual exercise of magical power. Um, but I
You have
suppose,
so much agency.
yeah,
I
yeah,
I wonder, uh, like, for which kind of people this resonates, where you have so much agency in a game, in a tabletop campaign, where you can just try to do anything. You may have basically superpowers functionally,
yeah,
and so you face a challenge, and you have an enormous toolkit to solve it in a way that we just don't have access to in real life, which is
yeah,
part of the fun. Right, it's the fantasy, right? There's power fantasy in there. Like I can turn into a giant, or I can turn into an owl bear. I can fly, I can cast lightning strikes. Does that reveal anything about ourselves of like what we tend to do when we have agency?
yeah. Yeah, I think it does. And, for me, choosing a wizard class, like having this magical power, right? I think it probably speaks to both my, desires and probably to my wounds or trauma to some degree as well. Like,
Mm,
hey, like I really want to be able to control the elements of my environment. And if I'm able to do that in a way that is both gives me a sense of control and a sense of agency. Like I'm pretty happy about that. Plus, it's cool because like shooting fire out of your hands, is also pretty wild. Or breath weapon for the Dragonborn, right?
yeah.
Physical Dragonborn. So yeah, I'd say that those are like pieces that I would say I can now tie through sort of like the other side of my sort of work and self-reflection, the internal work that I've been doing through therapy and other things that help me to see like, okay, yeah, like there's an element of like I don't want to ever be caught in a trap that I can't get out of, and that's
Mm.
where like fireballing anything in your way is a pretty easy way to get out
Yeah.
of that trap.
I'm glad that you brought that up because I think it's really valuable to have some spaces where we can bring our whole selves. And this part of the objective, actually, of just having this conversation and filming it and sharing it is, we are professionals. We're both, running companies, right? And we can present ourselves as just like crispy clean, prepared human beings all the time, right? Business, business, business. But we are human beings, and there's other, dimensions to us. I like places where you can just bring that. You don't have to hide that. You don't have to mask up,
Yeah,
right? You can just be your authentic self. So that's part of what we're trying to advocate for here. And being able to talk openly about, like, I have been through trauma, and here is how that has affected me, and here's what I've done with it. Like, here's how my healing and my transformation has gone. I think that's super important. What you just said resonates with me a ton.
yeah,
I did have a traumatic childhood. I have had a long healing journey.
yeah,
And video games were a part of that journey, for better or for worse. Like
yeah,
they were a haven when I was younger
right,
to get out of a really scary environment
yeah,
and run away into this fantasy world. And then be able to achieve goals that I didn't have the agency to do in real life, but I could immerse myself in these safe spaces where I have a ton of agency and I can basically have superpowers. There was a lot of value in that.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I would say that that wouldn't surprise me if that's more the rule than the exception for us who really find it interesting to be in a fantasy context. And whether or not we're awake to the trauma yet is like a maybe an open question.
Mm.
But what drives you to essentially live in a fantasy world, right? Is sort of an element of escapism, even if it is also an opportunity to exercise that agency, have fun, be creative, and so forth.
And there's so many different ways to engage with fantasy, right? Like you're
Yeah,
playing Skyrim or Baldur's Gate or something. just because you go off on a rampage and you're like, I stole something and a guard attacked me in Skyrim, so then I rampaged through town. Like, that does not mean that's how you're going to behave in real life.
Right.
Right? You can just be playing
For sure.
video game. You don't have to be immersed
Right.
every time.
Yeah, yeah. It's really wonderful, I think, to be able to like play out what if and like see that facet of, you know, what would this be like? It's sort of the same value of reading a book and living through the life of another character. You get to kind of feel who they are, who they want to be, and you know what that journey is like. So yeah, I definitely think it's a great safe space to experiment on like who could we be if we changed these things about ourselves, or if we leaned into this aspect or that aspect of our personality or our interests.
Presumably, you have done both types of playing of D&D. I'm guessing that you have done like very non-serious. I'm just doing some crazy. I just want to have fun here, and then kind of more immersive. Like I'm really imagining what would I do if I were this person, if I had these powers, right?
Sure, yeah. So I don't like one-on-one align with my like main character, though I would say that there's probably a lot of me that I've worked within or into it. And yeah, I definitely think that I tend to take the game more seriously than most people. Like I'll be DMing around the table and I'll have like multiple people like doing the most hilarious things to like resolve the situation. Like recently in the campaign, there was a coven of witches that, you know, the party was fighting, and they decided to basically like befriend / turn them into their girlfriends. So
I seduced the dragon.
Basically that thing. Yeah. So but it was like a bard and a sorcerer who were both like playing these kind of comical characters.
You got a bard in your party.
Yeah.
You know you're gonna get some funny moments.
Exactly. It's great. Yeah. So like the whole party, you know, and I think that that's one of the things that's delightful about being around a tabletop RPG is you get people to just bring like their fun side to the table.
Oh, people who haven't gotten to experience any tabletop yet, I think the one thing that they seriously underestimate is just how funny it is.
It's so funny. Yeah, like literally like hitting a dragon with salami. Like that's like moments like that are probably within every campaign and maybe even within every session or one shot.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty wild. It's a lot of fun.
Have you seen any difference between like the decision making or like how you play when you're playing, let's just say serious or immersed versus just for fun?
So again, I'm having a little trouble because like my serious immersed is for fun. So you know, I'd say
you'd say you're consistent.
I'm pretty
in
consistent.
Your approach.
Yeah, I'm thinking back about like even how we were playing a campaign that had a young green dragon, and like I'm just like literally metagaming outside of the game by like going through the strategy and saying we have another wizard in the party, we should all like upcast our magic missiles and hit it because that's a guaranteed hit. And like, you know, I just put on the strategist hat and try and like figure out the most serious way to take this, you know, really epic beast down, because challenge level 8 or something when our party was at level 3 or 5 or something. So it's like, you know, we were like, we're gonna die in this is gonna be a TPK.
It's the story of how we died.
Yeah, pretty much. And yeah, so I don't know, and you know, I think even in the way that I approach DMing, I'll just be a little serious but have fun with it. So like, I TPK'd my party, but on purpose,
Zachary,
and I had already planned a resurrection scene where they come back. And so they awoke to like
Gregorian. You pranked your party. You punked your punked your friends. Yeah.
So they were like all staring at me in shock, like we're dead. Like what do you mean dead? And then they hear like the playlist starts playing this Gregorian chanting, and it's like you have awoken in the Abbey of Saint Markovia, and like you're Anyway, it was.
You planned it out.
Yes. So a lot of it is like I'm having fun with it by being ultra serious, which is again a weird quirk about the way that I do my probably entire life.
But I mean, I love just like recognizing a thing about ourselves, and then sometimes there's something we got to work on, right? We're like, oh wow, like I had avoidant behaviors as a result of my trauma, so I was like, that's something I got to work on. You know, I got to be able to just communicate at all times effectively. You know, but then there's other things we learn about ourselves. We're like, well, that could be a downside, but also I could turn it into my superpower. So that's what you're doing with the over engineering,
right? For sure.
Right? And I mean, like learning about myself, my brain.
Right?
Lean into that. I know that I need novelty and stimulation, that I will, get a passion and then get bored of the subject once I understand it. Like an understood problem gets boring to me. So I can't just keep solving a solved problem.
I agree.
So I picked entrepreneurship, and like there's consciously, I'm not going to do the same thing every day. I'm going to do roles within entrepreneurship that allow me to constantly have fresh puzzles.
Yeah.
And that works. So I have the through line. I got to have the stability. Here's my role. I'll be a consultant. I'll be a teacher, a coach. But every day I get to listen to different people's problems and help solve.
Yeah.
So
I love that about the entrepreneurial work that I do as well, because it's a very similar space.
Yeah.
And just the idea of having like what's more complex than a human being. And so just you're constantly interacting with, challenging, scenarios and helping people to solve them. And that feels really good.
Yeah. So thinking about trying to draw that through line where we've got who we are in a D&D setting or video games, fantasy more broadly, and then who we are professionally, I will approach games drastically different, like from one session to the next.
Sure.
And I'm always going to be, like the chart of good, neutral, evil, and then you have chaotic, neutral, and lawful.
Yeah.
Right? I'm always going to be chaotic good or neutral good.
Okay.
That's it.
Interesting.
Like, I don't go into the other sections, but when I'm playing with friends in a campaign, I'm like consistently chaotic good. That's where I live, because I like to bring some comedy. I like to bring, just a little bit of zaniness to the party experience. When I play by myself, though, I'm 100% of the time I'm just neutral good.
Interesting.
Like I want to save every single life. I will do all the side quests to save everyone and their puppy. Okay. Right. And like not, be crispy clean. I'm not going to steal a single thing. I'm going to make all my gold honestly, like totally as virtuous as possible. Right. And the name of my company is Great as Possible Good. Obviously, I've got some kind of hero complex, right? So that's reflected in how I play.
Yeah.
Right. But the chaotic good is where I will deviate. I don't deviate all the way to like, lawful evil or something like that. But I will deviate to chaotic good and just be like throwing chickens at people, in town.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's hilarious. I resonate with that. I would say like my 3 favorite video games of all time, if you're not including Pokemon, would probably be Skyrim, Baldur's Gate, and then of course the classic Knights of the Old Republic, Star Wars.
Yeah.
And that one
at this point, that's a deep cut.
It's so it's like but it's also like built on an RPG. Like it was literally using D&D, I think 3 rules. So even down to like the attribute spread and all of that. So it's ironic that I've functionally been playing D&D for like a Star Wars reskinned D&D since 2001. But anyway, I replayed the game honestly probably 15 times over the years. It's just one of those I kept coming back to. And
so you have data.
Once.
That's a statistical sample. What are you? Only one time.
Only one time did I go the dark side route. And it was interesting.
Yeah.
But it was interesting, and it was one of those more like experimental, I'm kind of removing myself from this as opposed to it.
I'm watching a story carry out.
At the same time as you were like, wow, like this kind of makes me feel worse as a person a lot of times to do these things to people and like go full dark side.
That's been my issue. Like you can experience so many storylines in a game like Baldur's Gate where I've read, and I could probably experience this, but there's like the son of Baal, like this god of murder type thing. Mm-hmm. There's a storyline you can play through as a murder worshiper, essentially. Yeah. Like as evil as you can get. And apparently there's a very satisfying narrative to be experienced if you go for a redemption arc of that character. Yeah. And I could imagine having so much fun seeing that redemption arc, but I'm like, this is a long game. So back to that filtering out stuff, like I just don't care enough to like experience
the blood on your hands.
Yeah, the blood on my hand really doesn't feel good.
Yeah, and
even though it's a game.
Right. Yeah, and I know a lot about that kind of run as well. I've looked at the spoilers, but I've never done it myself. Yeah. And I would say the redemption arcs are the things that drive me a lot, especially the solo D&D games I play on generative AI. I'll look for and try and work in those redemption arcs wherever I can. So
for your characters,
for not so much my character, but my character supporting that as like an approach instead of going to take and fireball and
you're a career coach. Okay. Like you look for the redemption arc with your character supporting someone's redemption arc. Yeah. You're a career coach professionally. Yeah. So like
leadership coach, business coach. Yeah. Yeah. I think there's probably a connection there in that I am sort of trying to design for them the best possible way, but not in a manipulative way, but in like let me break you out of your shackles and your chains, and like you've chosen this path. So like one of the things I did, if you're familiar with Zariel as a archdemon of Avernus,
in D&D, this character,
yeah. So she is like a fallen angel that's ruling the first level of the 9 levels of hell, right? And what the
Of
hell's-
course, yeah.
And so like, but like, and I think there's actually a campaign about this, but in my solo campaign, I go in and I like worked to redeem Zariel. So
Yeah.
yeah, interesting, like, fun for me to see those types of like endings, because I think redemption stories are the most powerful.
They are. I mean, everyone loves Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender. He
Absolutely.
has the most compelling story,
Yeah,
right?
it's really,
You're like,
yeah.
Aang is kind of boring because he's just always good.
Yeah,
He's always this happy-go-lucky kid who's trying to do the best. He gets interesting in the later arcs,
yeah,
right? So I see that appeal. And you said earlier you kind of like Wizard appealed to you because you go for the more challenging aspect. I think we share that itch of like, let me make it harder. Let me make the game harder for me. Let me make life a little harder for me because
Right.
I want a little pressure.
yeah,
Right? And part of that is like, I want to see what I can achieve.
yeah,
And with ADHD specifically, there's like, I need stress apparently. Like the reason people will procrastinate is because you don't have motivation unless you have some kind of stimulation, and stress is stimulation, right? It's like any stimulation is good stimulation. So you'll work your way up to the deadline and then get the motivation because now you have to do it or face consequences.
right.
Right? It's like, oh, that's what my brain's doing. That's why I'll choose the hard way. That's why I'll try to juggle 6 projects at once instead of just focusing on one.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Because I want the challenge.
It's a good
Right.
insight. Yeah,
Yeah. Otherwise, you get bored.
yeah, yeah. I make the joke to my wife because she has ADHD and she's very open about that. But I'll say like, I'm not neurotypical. I'm traumatypical. Yeah, because it does show up as like neurodiversity in a sense, but it is
Yeah.
not like, I'm not classically ADHD.
Yeah.
But I do sometimes have challenges with executive function, but it's usually if I haven't slept.
Yeah.
My current life. as
Sleep
a
not
new-
sleeping
new
will do
parent.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Trauma typical. Yeah. Yeah, we've seen some like patterns in how we have gone through certain healing journeys and like challenges that we've overcome. And I think both of us will try to transform that into something positive.
yeah, very
You know?
much in different ways. I think
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, you seem to be more tempered about it. I'm still a little uptight and formal about it, but that's okay. I'm working on that.
Well,
This is
we
proof of
balance
that.
each other out. So,
Yeah.
when I started as an entrepreneur, I'm always connecting these things in my head. You have like forming the party. So you have forming your co-founders
Yeah. Nice.
for your startup,
Sure.
right? For your small business or your startup. And my co-founder, Kenneth, was, the other side of the coin for me. Like we were yin and yang, totally. He had more of the anxious tendencies. I'm more like the head in the clouds. So he was the detail-oriented guy, the recovering engineer, I like to call himself. And I was the idea guy, right? And idea guys and gals always struggle with execution. Or like, I have a million ideas, but then actually following through on them is the hard part. And I just need to focus, right? And think about the details and do the stuff that's not exciting, Vance. It's not always going to be fun. So he was there to like pull me down to earth, right? Not like depressing, but actually like ground me. And I was there to be like, but look at all the things that we could do and give him some inspiration and excitement.
Yeah.
So I liked having that as opposed to like a redundancy. If we were both off in the clouds,
Nice.
you're not getting anything done.
That's great. Yeah, that kind of partnership is really, really cool. Yeah, that's great.
And you want to form a balanced party,
Yeah.
right? Like who's going to be the party face, the one with all the charisma to pass the persuasion checks and convince, the big bad guy to just change the error, see the error of his ways and change his life. And then who's going to be the hit hard, and who's going to be the tank and who's going to be the healer. So you don't want to have the same skills as everyone else, right? That's kind of going back to like recognizing these strengths that you have or weaknesses and just leaning into like, this is me.
Yeah.
These are the roles that I'm really good at playing. I'm going to embrace that.
Yeah. Yeah. From a career direction or navigation standpoint too, like I think one of the things we talked about was you might align to a certain class based on that. But yeah, I do think that there is like patterns of thought or patterns of behavior that do tend to put you in similar spaces, which is why I'm always playing a wizard or some sort of magical class. Just find that I gravitate to that, a lot. And I think that, the more you can understand about yourself in that,
Yeah.
whether it's in a fantasy context or in a work context, the better off you are because you're able to play to your strengths and you're able to enjoy that process more.
So maybe you can help me right now figure out a little bit about my main. Okay.
All right, sure.
So I look at all 12 of them. I see something that resonates.
Okay.
But I can start the ranking a little bit. Okay. And it's like each one of them will appeal to a different, will scratch a different itch. Some of them it's like the aesthetic,
Yeah.
right? So I love the druid for the aesthetic,
Sure.
and then the values.
Yeah.
When I think about the values, it's like paladin, having those oaths that you
Okay.
hold yourself to, that resonates strongly with me.
Sure.
Upholding these values consistently throughout your life.
Yeah.
Druid as well, the values of like immersing in balance with nature and like viewing each other as this whole and serving the greater good. So I'm probably like values wise, I wouldn't be a rogue, right? I probably wouldn't be a warlock,
Okay.
but I would, druid would appeal and paladin would appeal. And then there's gameplay and fun factor. And it's like totally out of left field, right? And there I look at the chaotic fun of a bard
Sure.
or a sorcerer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Like
the
one
wild
of
magic.
the
surges
wild,
and
yeah,
stuff,
yeah, man. Like when I played druid, I would get a little bit tired of, okay, I wild shape into owlbear and I smash him.
Yeah.
I wild shape into owlbear and I smash him.
Kind of letting.
And then I smash him.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna keep doing that.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas if I'm bard, I can like do vicious mockery.
Right. Yeah.
And inflict psychic injury,
Yeah,
on
psychic damage.
the warlord,
Yeah.
right? And then I don't know if I have enough strength, I guess maybe I can carry like a smoke powder barrel in and hide that in the room
Yeah.
before.
there
Like
you
sorcerer, you can be flying around.
Barrelmancy.
Yeah,
That's
barrelmancy.
That's the class.
You're not locked into like, oh, I have 2 abilities now because I'm an owlbear.
Yeah. Yeah,
So then
that's
I
fair.
leaned in, I played more sorcerer in the end with my first playthrough. I thought I was going to be druid, and I was like mostly sorcerer.
Interesting.
So I have a really hard time just
Pinning it down.
picking
to-
one and like throwing myself at it.
Yeah, and I wonder if like the paladin oath kind of concept, you can have something in your backstory that really drives that and that
Yeah.
element of it, and then the druid, again, like I could see something being more like wood elf or something that gives you that communing with nature down to the species, right?
Yeah.
And then you're able to kind of play more in the bard, sorcerer territory for that chaotic good expression. So again, I'm wondering if some of those like more personality elements couldn't just be worked into a backstory.
Interesting.
And then class, could be more in terms of play style and aligning with that like chaotic good alignment.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm hearing more like multi-class
Yeah.
bard sorcerer, which is kind of an interesting like combo there.
I haven't tried that one. I'm currently doing in my friend's playthrough. I just switched off a throw barbarian, which is like basic. I mean, I hit things hard as a throw barbarian. I was like, okay, I got tired of just throwing the returning pike over and over again.
Sure.
So I'm now doing a bard with a little dip into paladin.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
Oath of the Ancients,
Yeah.
just a couple levels to get divine smite,
which
smite.
is,
Yeah.
crazy radiant damage, right?
And then School of the Swords for the bard.
Okay.
And you go pew pew with a couple crossbows
Oh,
or
yeah,
like dual
yeah.
wield.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'm trying that multi-class aspect. I haven't done bard sorcerer though.
Yeah. I've heard, in terms of like ridiculously overpowered classes like sorcerer warlock
Yeah.
is one because of the eldritch blasts,
Which
opportunity.
can you twin it? That's a
Yeah,
cantrip.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
you can use twinning, but I haven't played it, so I'm not 100% sure on that one. And then I haven't had any player characters use it. But the one that I was looking at for the solo campaign I'm running is that sorcerer wizard. So I did like 3 levels into sorcerer just to be able to get that like second magical attack per turn, and then up to level 17 in wizard because I'm playing this to level 20.
Oh, I wanted to ask
Yeah.
you what are some of the most satisfying moments that you have had playing wizard?
Okay, so as a wizard, let's see. I would say one of them that comes to mind. This was a funny, basic one. This is like almost. I love physical comedy, so this one would kind of like function like that.
Okay.
We were in a campaign where our party got surrounded by these like sturges, and they're these like flying bat things, and they're all around us. So of course, my wizard class, I chose School of Evocation, so I'm basically able to like, sculpt the spells. So my class doesn't, my party members don't get torched by the fireballs that I throw.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever. So
That's
I
helpful.
literally do like one of these fireball down in the midst of us,
Like a mortar.
as all the sturges are coming around us.
Yeah.
And they're instantly all dead. It was like we went from like roll for initiative, like fireball, and it's like nope, music's
That's it.
music ends. That's it. They all had 2 hit points, so it was
Oh,
like
yeah.
here we were like,
AOE, area of effect. That's
yeah,
gonna.
we were ganged up on like 10 of these things, and we were like, oh my gosh, we're so surrounded, like this is gonna
Yeah.
be a problem, and then it was so anticlimactic. It was
Yeah.
hilarious. So I really enjoyed that. That was a memorable and fun moment. And
We just had an incident where we ran into a bunch of kobolds
Okay, yeah.
What are they called?
Yeah, kobolds, yeah.
Yeah, and
In Baldur's Gate 3
or
or
it was the fish people.
oh,
What are they called?
I don't
Koa
remember
or
those
something like
ones.
that.
Yeah.
So we ran into a bunch of fish people, and it was like 20 of them. And my friend just dipped. He was like, we are low health.
Yeah.
I've got like 7 health left.
Right.
Like, we need to take a long rest. I'm dipping."
Okay.
And I was like,
This is in your like Baldur's Gate campaign with friends,
"This
right?
is Baldur's Gate."
Yeah.
So I'm like, "Chris, you want to
This
go
is
for
the
it?"
shack that you're talking about, right?
The shack, yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, let's go for it. Let's just send it."
Yeah.
I was like, "Steven, we have explosives. Why are you running away?" We cleaned him up.
Oh yeah.
And we were cleaning him up so fast that he was like, wait, let me come back and join the fight. Like, let me get a couple hits in.
Nice. That's hilarious.
Like, don't run away.
Yeah. At that point, you're probably level 9 or higher. So,
8, yeah, we were 8.
Yeah. So like you can do some damage. I feel like until you're level 5, it just doesn't really you can't survive. Survive is your goal.
Yeah, it's tough.
And then once you're at level 5, like my wife's favorite class as a nurse is cleric, so she's healing people, which is kind of like very appropriate.
Yeah.
But then she has spirit guardians, so it's like you just
it just does damage around you.
Everything around you.
Right, you can't get close.
Turn.
I'm not even worried.
So smart. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, no, because there's this puzzle solving aspect to it, right? And I can see that you love cracking the puzzle and like finding the creative solution. That's probably the biggest draw of the gameplay.
Yeah. I like creating puzzles too, and actually, this just sparked for me a reminder of in my second job out of college. I was running internal communications for an ad tech company, and one of the things we did was gamified it. And so I like turned this like communications campaign we were doing internally for the organization of 150 people into this massive game that had like points and everything. And I don't know, I think that kind of like idea of being a DM and like creating the game to create fun, satisfying experiences for other people is just really rewarding. So that's the kind of puzzle that I'm now doing, is creating puzzles for other people that are fun to solve. And it just strikes me as like a through line from my career to how I play in kind of my personal life.
So this is where I really wanted to take the last part of our conversation here is the intersection of the career and DMing or D&D, classes and fantasy settings.
For sure.
So we both do facilitation. Like, we'll both run workshops.
Right.
And role play is a huge part of this.
Sure.
And if you look at like a typical corporate training event, they will do role play constantly. It's like the bread and butter of a training. But it's usually dry and boring.
Yep.
And we're just kind of looking at this like, why not make it not suck? Like, we have these skills where you can bring in DMing, you can make the setting whatever you want. It's a role play.
Right.
Like, why not make it more fun? Right.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So like, it's interesting because the skill of facilitation and the skill of DMing are transferable.
Yeah.
Like, you're essentially facilitating the experience for the party with storytelling and other stuff. So I've ironically gotten a lot of experience facilitating for my work and my clients by just having like essentially improv sessions around a table every week or so as a DM. But one of the ideas that kind of came up as we were talking earlier was I might be able to like essentially reskin my offering for my clients who are looking for like an immersive like team building experience, to basically have them come and play what is functionally a D&D game where they're getting to create their characters, or at least play as a character and play that out. And that could even be tied to certain objectives that have real world significance, like development of your leadership, learning how to delegate and other sorts of traits there. And it would just be a much more memorable and immersive way of running that. And then all you'd need to do is kind of like, okay, sessions ended, let's debrief it. What went well? What did you learn? Sort of some of that kind of reflection that drives the real learning. So I'm really excited about that. In fact, I'm thinking I might just try to do that, run it as a one shot with my actual D&D table, and then see if I can get a corporate client to say, yeah, like this sounds super fun. Let's go for it.
Yeah. You make me think of how people learn, and like, learning doesn't have to suck. Learning can be fun. This is kind of a totally out of left field example, but if you like Lord of the Rings and you engage with Lord of the Rings material, you've probably naturally picked up a little bit of an ear for like what Elven sounds like and what Dwarven sounds like.
Sure, yeah.
These are completely made up languages, made up cultures, and yet you can recognize it because of the art of people who contributed to those fantasy worlds. You learn it. Like you're learning a culture. You know something about dwarven culture, about elven culture. You can recognize the language. So when I was working on developing a video game in partnership with indigenous writers who were creating their own characters and talking about indigenous land defense, their languages are featured in the game. And we didn't have to make it like an education game.
Right.
And we can teach the players a little bit of the languages without having it be like, okay, here's flashcards.
Yeah.
Here's like a vocab quiz.
Right.
Like, no. People,
Yeah.
we pick this stuff up by doing it, by breathing it and immersing ourselves in it.
Yeah.
So that's how we wrote the dialogue. Is it's like in English or your localized language
Yeah.
with a little bit of their
Yeah.
indigenous languages interspersed.
I love that.
So you have enough context to learn it.
Yeah.
And I know that was like a very different example, but I'm just thinking about how
Yeah.
when you're working in professional context, you're doing a facilitation, a training, a class, what have you, you can just give an immersive experience instead of like, here's a worksheet, here's vocab for you to build, here's the spreadsheet, here's the template for you to do your P&L statement and your balance sheet. Like it can certainly be packaged a little more attractively.
Yeah.
Let's say, at least.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're even sparking a couple ideas for me. One, if I was to run a facilitated event to help people grow their emotional intelligence, you could do it as like a one shot where every person is a bard and they have to use charisma to kind of get through and figure things out or something like that. But you're actually using real emotional intelligence techniques.
You're restraining them. You're like, you don't have
like
you don't have wisdom, you don't have strength, you got charisma.
I mean, maybe that would be like a kind of interesting constraint to play out or work within. And then, in terms of like bringing in languages, that was one of the things I loved most about playing wizard classes in Baldur's Gate 3 was like you were hearing them say literal like Latin words, like ignis is like fire, and like dolor is pain. So like, you're just, I don't know. I appreciate the depth that
you just pick up a little bit
there. And I had a quirky education, so I learned some Latin words and knew those and picked up on it. Was like, oh, now I want to print out the entire Latin chant so I can say this at my DM table.
Show off.
Yeah. Well, I did try learning how to write Draconic to be like super immersed with my Dragonborn character.
Yeah.
So then I had a baby. We had a baby, and I ran out of time to
do that. More time to study Draconic.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. For anyone listening, anyone who's like into fantasy, maybe D&D specifically, and also thinking about where they're going in life and their career, do you think there are any lessons that we can look at where it's like, what does my character say about me? Beyond like a fun personality quiz or horoscope type thing, what does my class say about me? What do my choices say?
Yeah, so I think that what resonates with you is probably good to pay attention to because there's something there, right? There's something about that's going to allow you to play to your authentic self, play to your strengths, live within your interests, right? And I think one of the common challenges that we see in a career coaching space is that people will be doing stuff they're really good at that they have lost interest in. And those are burnout skills, right? High proficiency, low importance. It's a burnout skill. And so
tell me more about that.
Yep. So if I'm finding that, we can call certain skills our strengths if we're both interested and proficient in them. The interest, typically rises to the level of like, hey, like I'm doing this in my career and I want to keep doing it going forward. That would be what I'd call like a high importance skill.
Okay.
And then, your low interest would be, or low proficiency, right? I just don't know how to do this skill yet. So in terms of the transferable skills assessment that uses this framework that I'm thinking of called Skill Scan, one of the skills is persuasion. So it's a communication skill in the communication skill category out of the 9 different communication skills that they mention. So persuasion being that skill, you could be, high, it could be of high importance to you, but you could be moderate proficiency, which makes that a high potential skill.
So you'd want to work on it.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be worth investing in.
Yeah, absolutely. You've identified it as an area where you're like, I want to grow in this skill set and become better. You have the flip of that, which would be a support skill of like, I'm already highly proficient, but it's of moderate importance to me. So like, I can do it. I just don't need to do it so much. Where you get into burnout territory was when you're highly proficient in that, but it's of low importance to you. And that's where it's like, I keep having to do this thing that I don't want to do over and over and over.
I hear that all the time.
Yep.
And we know other coaches too, so we hear these stories a lot of like people who attain success that wasn't their definition of success.
Yep.
They've been busting ass working in a position that they didn't really choose. Like maybe their parents kind of influenced that a lot, or just societal expectations. influence where they went, where they thought they should do, they thought they ought to be this kind of, career, and they're not satisfied.
Exactly.
They're really good at it,
Yep.
but yeah, the burnout
Yeah.
is real.
And you can't do that for decades, right? If you're burnt out,
Yeah.
it's soul killing to do that. So,
A lot of people will hit that kind of like, it'll feel late. They'll be maybe in their
Sure.
40s or 50s, and they're
Yeah.
starting to have this realization. And there's a little bit of like, oh crap, how do I change now?
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah, and that's where career navigation comes into play and your transferable skills, and how do you take a two-step process so you're not just starting over in a new career, but you can kind of keep your industry or keep your job and
Yeah.
not switch them both at once. So there's some techniques
Yes.
that are really
Yeah.
useful there. But in terms of bringing that back to the idea of like your classes within D&D,
Yeah.
right? Like you can experiment and say, you know what? Clerics are definitely healers. Maybe I don't want to go into healthcare, but maybe I do want to do some sort of caregiving role. Well, let's play cleric. Let's see what that's like to like actually be the one like resurrecting people or saving them from like, death from the monsters because you have healing word or something like that. Like that would be a good way to just play out what are some types of behaviors or roles, really, because it's really a series of roles.
Yeah.
And so, the paladin, is going to be doing the divine smites and taking out the undead, right? You have got your wizard who's just going to be, kind of can be a utility type of person, but even within the classes, 8 schools of wizardry and D&D 5e, and then the 2024 edition has like brings that down to 4 different schools. So there's variance even within a class that you can play if you want more conjuring or more elemental, kind of damage and such.
That was important for me, like internal variety.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. So like I know for me, I'm always going to choose that evoker or like elemental damage type, because my play style in pretty much every game is I don't have to play as much defense if I take them out really quick on offense. So, I'll just be like lightning bowling,
The enemies can't hit you if they're dead.
That's right. And it's a faster play. So like that's the thing.
Yeah.
I like to keep it moving. So I don't want to have like a protracted 20 session battle, 20 turn battle. Like let's end this in 2 or 3 turns and then let's move on to the next thing. Unless
Yeah.
I guess you're against the BBEG.
So the over engineering is very front loaded. It's
Sure.
prep.
Oh,
right?
it's all
It's
prep.
not over engineering during the fight. Yeah.
Absolutely right. So yeah, it's you're stacking all sorts of like perks and benefits. So like, basically in one of the D&D one shots, not one shots, the like solo campaign I was playing with a multiversal version of Balasar, right? Because I've played multiple versions of the same character in different contexts. He became essentially like part artificer without having that artificer like class, and did a lot of crafting, and then would craft these like really helpful magical gauntlets to improve his AC and other kind of like aspects. So he had a fantastic staff that was a legendary item that needed to be attuned to him and all this stuff. So yeah, I'd say definitely like getting as strong as you can before you go into it so you can kind of cheese the fight a little bit. Like that for me is fun. That's the over engineering that I'm trying to do.
You're the guy who in Skyrim like enchants the enchantment to enchant the spoon, to enchant the enchantment to enchant the spoon, and gets it up to like 45,000 damage a hit.
That is literally how I just replayed Skyrim. So, yeah, I mean it's without breaking the level. Like I still stayed within like the levels.
Hit
but
the dragon with the spoon.
I hit level 45 by just going up in smithing, enchanting, and alchemy. Right?
Yeah.
So, and then I started like destruction because
I
destruction
see you.
mage.
I see. I got you.
Yeah, you got it. You're right. You got it.
So what I'm hearing is self-reflection is really important, and you can self-reflect in valuable ways that are inexpensive. I'll use that word a little weirdly, but like playing a game like D&D is cheap. It's not risky. You're not actually taking any risks when you try something out in the context of D&D.
Yeah.
But you can still gain similar value as if you had tried it in real life when you reflect on how did that make me feel.
Yeah.
So I'm a design thinker. That's my background. And prototyping mindset is huge. The book Designing Your Life by Bill Burnett talks about how, the example of like a rising college freshman who's considering their career choice says, oh, well, I like marine life. I like dolphins and stuff. I'll just be a biologist. If you just go and invest 4 years of college education to be a biologist and then find out that you get seasick, it's like, like, that was a lot of money and time of my life.
Exactly.
But if that rising freshman had said, you know what, maybe let's call some marine biologists up and say, what's a day in the life like? What are some of the most common pitfalls that people run into? What are people surprised by? They might have heard
informational interviewing.
An hour conversation could have given them that information.
Yeah.
Or a middle ground, like let's do an internship
Yeah.
first and see if we actually like that career direction.
Yeah.
Right? Because how many people invest in a major that they never use?
73% is the statistic that I've heard.
Okay. So 73% of people could spend like a month or two doing some prototyping
Yeah.
of their career to learn what they don't want to do and
Yeah.
save a heck of a lot of time. So doing that in a campaign and being like, oh, I'm going to try this. Let me try Barbarian out and see, what is it like if I just kind of run in and face my problems head on and hit them hard. And I'm like, I don't really find that approach very satisfying. Like, I want a little bit more of a cerebral challenge. Okay, let me try Sorcerer and like do a little more prep, and puzzle solving with the meta magic and stuff. Okay, this is kind of cool. Like you can learn stuff about yourself and then take that to your career where it actually matters. Where it's going to hit your salary and what you're doing with your time and how you're spending it and whether you can see your family, at night or you're going to still be working. So self-reflection baked in with this kind of prototyping mindset. The role play lets you get, I think, like a similar value of learnings, even though it's fake.
Yeah.
Into yourself.
Yeah. It's kind of like playing life with save scumming, right? Like you replay that like experience and moment over and over, but like you're learning. Yeah. And I agree. I think that, again, this is the value of reading books, and traditionally how people would do this is let me live the life through someone else's life, right? And see what they did and how they did it. And, you referenced designing your life. Like one of their scenarios is the Odyssey plan of build 3 5-year plans. And like you can only live one life, but by playing out the thought experiment, figuring out what's important to you and what you could do, you then get to design a life that really matters to you and like what you really enjoy. And so I think that there's a really strong kind of parallel here. Like if I'm thinking of going into healthcare, like play a cleric class, see how that goes for you. Like, do you enjoy that, being the person to like save and support other people?
The role. Because if you constantly find yourself like itching to be more of the fighter,
right,
then that might say something. Right? It may not be like no healthcare, but it can tell you a little bit about like what roles will feel satisfying versus frustrating.
Yeah. Right, and the type of team environment that you should be in. So if you're constantly the one like wanting to just like solo the monsters with your high AC because you're wearing heavy armor as a cleric, right? Like maybe you shouldn't be in super collaborative roles or a job.
You like the self-reliance.
Yeah, like maybe you're like more of a dentist where you're actually fixing people's teeth and supporting them, but it's mostly a one-on-one kind of engagement that's still high value versus like being a nurse where you're like leaning on your team, and like if you and your team aren't working together, like people die sometimes. So like definitely can, your play style in terms of a game can definitely translate over. And even I'll just remark on that, and something I've observed about myself. So I tend to be a bit more individualistic than I am collaborative. And that comes out in, as a DM, it's a pretty solitary, like, individualistic type of thing where you're writing up this story for everyone. But I care about community, I care about supporting others, and I care about people having a good time. So it's actually like a seat where I get to do that, which is, ironic because it's not one of the 10 or 12 classes. 13 if you add in Artificer, right? But it is its own kind of seat or role at the table, and it fits me really well because I'm always trying to curate great experiences for communities of people so that they can become better, have fun, and do that kind of thing.
Excellent. Any closing thoughts?
So I really love the parallels, and I wish that we could turn this into a sort of ongoing conversation around.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I think we should dive into each of the 12 classes.
Yeah.
And look at, again, beyond the kind of horoscopy, like personality quiz, like, oh, if you're a barbarian, you like to face problems head on, like a little bit deeper than that.
Sure.
To say, if I have a consistent main, or hey, like my puzzle, I don't have a consistent main.
Yeah.
Which is reflective of me and my career choices. Like that does one-to-one. So if we can get a little bit deeper in using that D&D lens to help people kind of critically examine their lives and their career choices, it can be more fun. It can be more satisfying. And the ways that you can test it out can be more fun.
Yeah.
And like lower risk, lower friction.
Right.
So I think we should do it.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds good. follow-up conversation then would be part of my closing thoughts. And also, I'd love to see you as like a bard sorcerer in the one shot on Saturday. So,
Maybe,
you
yeah, I
know,
can test it out there.
yeah,
See how it feels.
yeah, you absolutely can.
There we go. I won't be a monk this time.
Okay.
Even though punching stuff is really
Yeah.
fun.
Oh, it is. It is. Yeah. And I wonder if there's a subclass in either of those, sorcerer or something, that you could, yeah, I don't know. I, you could always custom create it. Like, I think I was looking at like battle mage was one of the ones that's not a real
I like spell
class.
swords as an
Spell
archetype.
swords, yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the thing. Like,
Yeah.
D&D is sort of restrictive, even with all the variants of 120 different like class and subclass combos.
Yeah.
Um, you kind of are getting to create your own thing, and maybe that's the closing thought is, you know, you are forging your own character, your own class, your own main, and it doesn't have to, kind of line up with a particular archetype. And if you're doing it right, maybe it won't.
We are designing our lives. Whether we're doing it intentionally or not,
Right.
we're doing it.
Yeah.
So let's make it intentional.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. If you've liked this video, hit it, give it a like. That's the best way to support it. Subscribe for more content. It's not going to be very spammy. Thank you for listening.
And yeah, I guess we're going to have another one of these then.
Fireball.
I love it. Thank you.